Hello everyone. So this is a bit of an experiment. Actually, I'm going to redo a video I had a go at. So I'm really inexperienced at using YouTube, and I'm just doing it from a kitchen table. But I wanted to share a little activity to welcome in the new year, and I've called it what do you wish to value in the new year? What do you wish to bring in? Um, it's going to be a creative exercise, but it's not about being an artist. But we'll be using some art materials, using whatever you've got. So, starting with practicalities, the kind of things you need, you just need some paper. Any paper will do. A sheet, a notebook, a sketchbook. So I'm using a sketchbook. Something to write with, whatever. And then ideally something you can colour with, and that could be pens, colouring pens, pencils, crayons, paint if you have paint, but if you don't, that's fine too. So I'm going to be using some acrylic paint. All you need are basics: yellow, red, blue and white. And you can get really cheap ones from shops in the UK, such as The Works, Hobbycraft, Poundland. And then something to apply paint with could be a paintbrush or piece of card, whatever you have to hand. Plus a jar of water, maybe some rags or kitchen roll if you need to clean up, and that's it. Optionally, you might want some collage materials, so just some old magazines and maybe a glue stick or some craft glue, but those are optional. We may or may not use them much. So we're going to be working with words and images. And when I think about the new year, it's quite often a nice time to reflect on what's past and what might be to come in a positive way. So reflecting and thinking about what we want going forward. Obviously, common to this is setting New Year's resolutions, which, to be honest, I'm not a great fan of and don't tend to do. Goals can be useful, but I kind of feel like setting goals for the year can sometimes feel a bit restrictive, a bit too much like a burden, something we have to live up to and then might beat ourselves up about if we don't. So I'm thinking something looser, something gentler, and something that emerges not just from our creative mind, but from maybe a wiser part of ourselves. So one way into this is thinking about values. Now, I find values are something that isn't always talked about in everyday conversation, but actually they sit beneath everything we do. So values are about what principles we live by, how we make choices in the world for this or for that, how we look at ourselves, how we interact with other people, and how we are in the world as a whole. So very useful to spend some time on. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is just jot some ideas down. So I'm just going to move a few things out of the way. And get a pen or a crayon or pencil, and I'm going to jot some mine down, and I'd like you to do the same. If you struggle with getting started, you can Google lists. online. There's plenty of them out there. So you probably won't be doing that writing very easy. I'm told it's not very readable, but don't worry, you don't have to read what I'm doing. It's just as a prompt, really. What else do I want? Okay, so hopefully you'll have a list, and take as long as you need, so pause the video if you need to. So thinking about what we might want for the year, I think it's quite easy to think of physical things, material things, like we might want more money, or whatever that brings us, whether it's like, I don't know, more clothes or a car or a house, or promotion, and that's okay. And there might be other things. We might want to we want to spend more time with family, or more time doing things for ourselves. So whatever it is, you'll probably have some idea of things that you'd like. What I'm inviting you to do is dig a bit deeper. So think about whatever these things are that you might like. How do they relate to your values? So for example, you might want a promotion at work so that you have more money, so that you have more security. And security then might be an important value for you. Also, these can, if you kind of carry on working with this, you might find you've got overlaps, or ones that kind of group together. You might also find some contradict each other. It can also be helpful to think of an example from your life, and that's useful kind of thinking backwards and thinking forwards. So during the year, you might kind of come across situations where there's opportunity to reflect back on this. So a small example for you. So early last year rather, last year, I'm talking about last year already, wow. So last year, it was winter, and I really felt I needed some fresh air and just a little bit of downtime. So I took myself off to a local beach. So this was around self-care and also around nature. And I got there, and the tide was out. It'd been high tide. It had also been really windy. So when I got to the beach, I just found it strewn with all kinds of rubbish, as well as things like seaweed that the tide brings in. It had brought in a pile of plastic all along the beach, small bits, large bits, just bits and bits of different types of plastic that got thrown away and washed in, and that would end up being washed back out again. And I couldn't unsee it, so I had a kind of a bit of dilemma, because I have a really dodgy back, so a lot of bending really isn't good for me. But I also value the natural world, and I knew that it wouldn't be good for his plastic to stay there and get washed back out to sea and do more damage. So and I knew even though it's a small beach, I won't be able to pick it all up because there was just a lot of it. So I decided to do some, and I ended up with a fairly big bag of rubbish. And even though I hadn't managed to clean the whole beach, I felt satisfied that I'd just done what was a tiny, tiny bit. And that kind of brings me back to balance, because I felt in balance with myself and I managed to balance what I did. So that's just a small example. As I say, take as much time as you need, and don't worry if it's a bit vague at first. What we're going to do now, we're going to pause the thinking and switch into something else. And to do that, we're going to do a short breathing meditation, which I'm going to guide you through. So all you need to do is just to settle down wherever you are. I'm just going to move this for now. And I'm going to put a candle on the table. And if you're comfortable doing so, you might want to close your eyes. Otherwise, just take a soft focus. So wherever you are, if you're sitting in a chair, maybe putting your feet flat on the ground, letting your hands rest in your lap, and just letting everything settle down. So now letting your attention go on to your breath. Just breathing in, breathing out in your own time. And if you're comfortable doing so, breathing in through your nostrils and out through your nostrils. Just being with your in-breath as it comes into your body, feeling it fill your lungs as the lungs expand and then contract again on your out-breath. So breathing in and breathing out. Just feeling the breath come and go in your body without any need to change it, without any need to do anything. Just being with your breath, letting everything settle down, soften. Breathing in, breathing out. And maybe getting a sense of your breath travelling further down your body so you can feel your belly expand with your in-breath, contract with your out-breath. Just breathing in, breathing out. Sitting here just with your breath. Maybe feeling a sense of your feet on the ground, a sense of your feet being grounded like the roots of a tree going down into the earth as your head reaches up into the sky. And now I'm going to invite you to let a word or an image or a symbol just drop into your consciousness. A bit like a pebble that's thrown into a pond and ripples out. What's coming up for you? Just sitting with this for a few moments or so, without any need to force it. Asking ourselves, asking the wiser part of ourselves for some guidance for the coming year. What will help support us in this coming year? Just sitting with this quietly for a few moments. Seeing if something emerges, and if it doesn't, that's okay too. There's no right or wrong way. A few more moments. What is a word or an image or a symbol to help guide me through the coming year? Now coming back to a table and opening your eyes if you've had them closed. Okay, so we're going to start by choosing some images if you've got a magazine. So if you haven't, this will only take a few minutes or so. I'm just looking for the ones I've already got. Bear with me a minute. Okay, so I've already pulled a few out, just as an example. And all I've done is flick through some magazines. So, you hear me creaking, or my chair creaking. So, just a question of picking a magazine. And in fact, I quite like that word on the cover, so I'm going to whip that out. And try just using your hands, there's no need to use scissors. We're not talking about perfection here. Just be free to do it however you like. And let your hands and your eyes choose the images. So don't think it. Don't think, what image do I need? What do I want? But just flick through and let yourself pick images without censoring yourself and without any need for them to make sense. So the images you end up might well relate to what we've been thinking about already, but it might be something totally different, and that's how it works. Okay, and then once you've got your images, taking as long as you need, I picked this one for the flowers, but I quite like the word container on the back, and that's kind of how collage works really. One way of doing it would be to do it as a vision board, which we're not going to do here, but it's a concept you might have heard of and you might like to look up if it appeals to you. And the idea is picking images for the year or what you want to bring in. So just going to put those aside for now. So because we start with some paint. Okay. And turn into a blank page. I'm just putting a piece of paper to protect the page beneath it like this. I'm going to paint over this. You can choose to start a new page if you wish, but it's quite nice to actually work on top. And before I start, I'm going to show you some I did previously. Okay, so this one is one I did last year, and it was, as you can see, a garden with a bird and an archway, and that was mainly watercolour. But remember, it's not about creating a pretty picture, even though I quite like this one. So I started this video and it went a bit wrong. So this is the image that I've done for this year already, which I had intended to go through with you. Hopefully you can see most of it. And you can see it's fairly different to the previous one. So there's no right or wrong way to do this. And what I'm going to do is just very briefly talk you through the process that I went through to get here. And hopefully you can have a go. So, going back to the page, what we're going to do is just introduce some colour. And a tip for this is to help get out of your thinking mind, you might want to try experimenting with your non-dominant hand. So if you're left-handed, use your right hand. If you're right-handed, use your left hand. Now, with the paints in front of you, or pencils, or whatever it is you have, just let your hand choose a colour. And it could be any colour you like. And then just add in some colour to a page, however you like. So yours won't look like mine, yours will look fairly different, and that's okay. This is just to give you an idea. So I'm drawing shapes here, but now I'm going to switch to some paint. And I'm going to make some green. Am I going to make some green? No, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some blue first. So I'm not thinking of what I want this to look like at all. So acrylic paint, I'm just using straight from a tube, although I could put it on a piece of paper or cardboard palette first. I'm just adding it straight to my page. That's what I feel like doing. And the good thing about acrylic paint is it dries fairly quickly. My paintbrush is a bit wet, so it's going on fairly smoothly. If I add more water, it actually waters it down more. So it's a bit more like closer to watercolour. It's not watercolour, but you get more of a transparent effect. So you get different effects depending how you do it. Now I'm going to switch. So I'm going to colours. So do this for as long as you feel like, and then when you're ready, choose another colour. So I'm going to wash my brush and wipe it, and then I'm going to add a different colour, and I'm going to just add it to the page again. Now, because my first layer is still wet, it doesn't dry that quickly. It is quick. I'm adding yellow, but yellow and blue make green, so I'm getting the colours merging, which I like. If you prefer your colours to stay separate, then just give it a little time to dry, which it will do fairly quickly. So hopefully you're getting the idea from this, and you can also add colouring on top of this if you wish. So just adding some more green. So I'm not going to make you sit through watching me painting the whole thing, because you'll probably get a bit bored. But I just wanted to show you the basics. Switch to another brush, and I'm not planning what I'm painting, I'm just letting it emerge. And remember, it doesn't have to make sense. It will end up making sense at the end, but we're not planning that in advance, so we don't know. And that's the beauty of creative work, because what you're doing, you're combining your thinking mind, which thinks in words, with your less conscious mind, which according to psychology, particularly Jungian type psychology, thinks using images and symbols. So what we're doing is working with both, and then they lead to some integration on the page. You can just carry on as long as you like. So this feels to me like, at the moment, it's a kind of leaf. Although it could end up as something completely different by the time I finished. I might just switch colours again, so you can see, you can just keep on going. Switching to more of a craney thing again here. Not overthinking what you're doing, just enjoying the process. And if that's something that's challenging, then that can be interesting in itself, exploring the challenge. This is how I tend to work. I like working intuitively and just seeing what emerges. Because it leads to growth, new information. However, I'm going to pause here and talk about the next stage. So at the moment you can see my words, and that's okay, they can stay there. I'll probably do some more work on this page after we finished, and the words might end up getting covered, and that's okay too. But the final step is about when it feels you've done enough painting or collaging, just seeing what word or words want to emerge from it. And again, they don't have to make sense initially. The only thing I do suggest is keeping them positive. So for example, if earlier you were thinking, well, I don't want any more stress or anxiety this year, what's the opposite to that? If you don't want stress, what do you want? Do you want calm? Do you want peace? What is it? So keeping the language positive, see what word wants to emerge and just write it on. So then you've got your image and your words. And then later in the year, you've got from there to come back to. So what I will do when it's dried is I will leave a couple of blank pages and perhaps draw some circles, which I'll come back and write in later in the year as part of the ongoing process. So I hope this has been useful, even if it's just off my kitchen table and I'm not particularly good at videoing. And I'd just like to wish you many blessings for this coming year.